Anderson is very unique in the Meghan Markle Disposable Friends series because Markus is indispensable.
Meghan Markle has been criticised for laughing when a model tripped during the Balenciaga fashion parade.
But I really don't think she would be in the position she's in without Markus.
Everyone keeps whispering about Meghan and Harry, right? The drama, the interviews, the tears, the royal exit, the whole circus. But let me tell you the one thing absolutely nobody is paying attention to. There was someone in Meghan's life before the palaces, before the limelight, before she even locked eyes with Prince Harry. And that man wasn't a royal, wasn't Hollywood elite, wasn't some billionaire running empires from glass offices. No, his name was Markus Anderson. And if you haven't heard of him, oh honey, you're about to understand why you should have. While the world was obsessing over Meghan's rise, her perfect photos, flawless speeches, carefully curated image, Markus was the quiet hand behind half of it. The man wasn't giving her ladders, he was practically building staircases for her. He wasn't rich by birth, he didn't come from royalty. He literally started out carrying trays as a waiter at Soho House, London. A waiter, pouring drinks for people who had no idea they'd someday be begging to get on his guest lists. Most folks stay in that job their entire lives. Good tips, good gossip, maybe seeing a celebrity up close once in a while. But Markus, he looked around and saw opportunities glittering like diamonds. This man could read a room the way some people read their morning newspaper. Fast, sharp, knowing exactly who to pay attention to and who would be useful later. He knew instantly who had influence, who wanted it, and who could help him climb the social ladder. The man could walk into a room full of millionaires and know exactly which one needed attention, which one wanted to feel special, and which one was desperate to be around someone who wasn't intimidated by them. That was Markus's secret power. He made the powerful feel comfortable. And people noticed. Soon enough, the waiter became the global membership director of Soho House, the man with the keys to some of the most exclusive rooms on earth. Think about that for a second. From carrying plates to deciding who gets access to celebrities, billionaires, CEOs, and the entire creative elite. This wasn't luck. This was strategy at its finest. Markus traveled from city to city, handpicking who got to be part of the elite crowd at every new Soho House opening. These openings were legendary. If your name wasn't on Markus's list, you simply didn't exist socially. That's the kind of power he had. The type of influence Meghan Markle noticed instantly. Because Meghan, by the time Markus discovered her, wasn't some fresh-faced newcomer stumbling around Hollywood. She wasn't clueless. She had suits, she had a career, she had ambition, but she wasn't famous. Not famous enough famous. She was hustling, grinding, doing what she could, but she knew the truth. In Hollywood, talent helps. But connections? Connections run the show. And Meghan, oh she's no fool, spotted Markus like a hawk spots movement in a field. She saw a man who had access to the rooms she desperately wanted to be in. A man who could introduce her to people who could take her career from working actress to must-invite celebrity. Markus had the keys everyone wanted.
COVID or the plague, she's like, hi, how are you? Kisses, kisses, barely a little kiss, if you remember.
And Meghan, she wasn't just networking, she was calculating. She wasn't flirting, not romantically at least. She was strategizing, playing the long game. She made herself useful, made herself seen. She placed herself close enough for Markus to notice. And he did. Before long, Meghan was being invited to Soho House business trips. Trips actresses with cable TV roles do not get invited to unless someone is vouching for them like their life depends on it. One day she's filming Suits. Next thing she's sipping champagne at exclusive events surrounded by directors and producers who could change her future with a single phone call. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't magic. This was Markus opening doors and Meghan making absolutely sure she stepped through every single one. She floated through rooms with perfect poise, wearing the right outfits, saying the right things, laughing at the right moments. She treated every conversation like it was an audition for the next stage of her life. And honestly, it worked because Markus didn't just bring her along. He showcased her. He introduced her to designers who dressed her for free, photographers who made her look like she was already famous, philanthropists who helped her craft a polished humanitarian image. Meghan, in return, made Markus look like he had discovered the next big thing, which in a way he did. Their dynamic wasn't romantic. It was strategic brilliance disguised as a friendship. Two climbers helping each other rise. Their rise was so effective that by the time Soho House Toronto had its massive, star-packed opening, with actual A-listers like Keira Knightley, Bradley Cooper, Naomi Watts, Meghan was already orbiting Markus's world like she belonged there, even though she wasn't invited because of Suits. And trust me, if the Suits cast were as important as she later made them seem, they would have been there. They weren't. Then came the weekend that changed everything. Soho Farmhouse. Markus had this habit of arranging cozy, exclusive, almost magical getaways for people he really liked. And somehow during one of those trips, Meghan and Prince Harry ended up in the same place, the same weekend, at the same ultra-private retreat where powerful people go to disappear. Coincidence? Please, people like Meghan don't believe in accidents. And Markus? He built his entire career by putting the right people in the right rooms at the right time. You connect the dots. After that weekend, Meghan's life flipped. Overnight, she went from actress with potential to woman dating a prince.
Duchess of Sussex claiming she felt objectified.
But here's the twist. While Meghan quietly distanced herself from old Hollywood connections, one person stayed closer than ever: Markus. Instead of fading into the background when she joined the royal circle, he somehow walked right through palace gates as if he'd been invited by the Queen herself. Private dinners, he was there. Family-only events, he showed up. Even secret vacations meant for close confidants, Markus was always nearby. People inside the palace were stunned. He wasn't staff, wasn't an advisor, wasn't family, he wasn't even British. Yet he moved like he belonged more than half the royals. He didn't bow when others bowed. He didn't follow protocol. He didn't care about hierarchy. His allegiance was crystal clear: Meghan, which made palace staff deeply uncomfortable because Markus wasn't just present, he was observing, listening, absorbing private conversations meant for royal ears only. And he had zero obligation to stay quiet. Years went by with Markus floating through royal spaces like a silent storm cloud, until suddenly, one day, he vanished. No explanation, no statements, nothing. And that silence, oh, it was louder than anything he could have said. Then, out of nowhere, Markus resurfaced. Not for money, not for fame, just a few vague comments at a small event, and somehow those comments accidentally leaked. And every royal watcher lost their minds. He didn't betray Meghan, but he didn't defend her either. Instead, he dropped the kind of cryptic comments that send tabloids into a frenzy and PR teams into panic attacks. Suddenly, Meghan's carefully managed image cracked, and the world started putting the pieces together. Markus had seen everything, and now everyone realized he could talk, if he wanted to. And Meghan, she knew it too. So after that insane rise, the glamour, the private jets, the silent entrances into rooms where even cameras weren't allowed, Markus went from being Meghan's quiet support system to becoming the palace's biggest walking risk. And honestly, you could feel the tension building, like everyone knew something was going to explode sooner or later. He'd been around too long, seen too much, slipped through too many guarded doors without anyone truly knowing why he was there. People inside those walls started whispering. Staff who'd been there for decades, who'd served royals their entire lives, couldn't figure out how a former waiter had more access than actual aristocrats. He was always around, but never officially needed, always listening, but never contributing, always present, but never acknowledged. That made him unpredictable, and unpredictability in the royal machine?
Meghan Markle has declared herself one of the most bullied people in the world.
That's deadly. But Meghan, she kept him close because Markus was the last piece of her old life she trusted. The one who'd seen her before the tabloids, before the tiaras, before the expectations. And yet that closeness is exactly what made the palace nervous. Because unlike royal staff, Markus had no confidentiality agreements to sign, no centuries-old loyalty to uphold. If Markus ever decided to speak, he could scorch the entire institution with a single interview. And Meghan, sources say she was furious because Markus wasn't denying anything. He wasn't defending her. He wasn't even clarifying. His silence gave people permission to believe whatever version of the truth they wanted. And when someone knows as much as Markus does, silence speaks louder than any confession. He had been everywhere. The arguments, the tense dinners, the stress-filled nights, the private moments when Meghan felt cornered by royal expectations and needed someone to vent to. Markus heard it all. He saw the cracks before the world did. He witnessed the strain between Harry and the palace, Meghan and the staff, Meghan and the rules she didn't want to follow. And now, he wasn't saying a word. That terrified the palace, because unlike aides or advisors, he wasn't bound by royal loyalty. He didn't care about hierarchy. He didn't care about protecting the institution. His only allegiance had ever been to Meghan, but even that seemed unstable now. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. He talked about Meghan being deeply misunderstood and fiercely determined. Anyone who knows PR language understands exactly what those words mean. Deeply misunderstood is the polite version of a lot more complicated than you think. Fiercely determined is code for she will bulldoze her way through anything. It wasn't an attack, but it wasn't protection either. It was a reminder. He knows everything, and he chooses what to reveal. Instantly, the tabloids exploded again. Analysts broke down his comments word by word. Online forums lit up. Suddenly, everyone had theories. What did Markus mean? Was he hinting at the bullying allegations, the family fights, the meltdown behind palace walls? Every interpretation was worse than the last, and Markus didn't clarify any of them. And Meghan, according to insiders, she was absolutely livid, because Markus wasn't being loyal, he was being strategic. He was protecting himself, not her. He didn't need to spill secrets, he just needed people to remember he had them. That alone kept his power intact, because if Markus had ever decided to talk for real, he could end careers, he could damage the monarchy, he could shatter the public's perception of Meghan and Harry in ways no tabloid ever could. But he didn't. He chose the most powerful path of all, controlled vagueness. After that night, Markus disappeared again, like he'd dropped his message and stepped back into the shadows. No more public sightings, no more interviews, no flashy events. The man who once lived in exclusive circles went quiet, intentionally quiet. Some called it respect, others called it calculated self-preservation. Either way, he knew when to vanish. Meanwhile, Meghan was left dealing with the fallout, because after that moment, her world shrank even more. The public saw her as ambitious, calculating, manipulative, and Markus's non-denials didn't help. Her inner circle tightened to almost nothing. She couldn't fully trust anyone. Anyone could do what Markus just did. Say a few words and set the world on fire. People started analyzing their entire friendship, rewinding years of interactions, trying to figure out what was real and what was strategy. And the sad truth? Both seemed possible, because their relationship never quite looked like a normal friendship. It looked like something crafted, something mutually beneficial, something that worked, until it didn't. Markus became a ghost in Meghan's story, present everywhere in the early chapters, then vanishing in the scenes where everything crashes. He didn't betray her, but he didn't stand by her either. And that gray zone is what haunts the narrative. He didn't cash in with a book. He didn't sell interviews. He didn't expose her, but he also didn't silence the rumors. He let people wonder, and that was enough to permanently stain her image. Because sometimes the worst damage isn't done by enemies. It's done by people who were once close enough to hurt you without lifting a finger. Markus had the information, the access, the memories, the conversations, and by staying silent, he proved how dangerous he really was. Not because of what he revealed, but because of what he could reveal. And Meghan, she climbed high, incredibly high. But the higher she went, the fewer people she could trust. Every relationship now had strings attached. Every friendship had expiration dates. Every person who helped her rise eventually became a liability. Markus stayed in her shadow, even long after he disappeared. Because the thing about shadows is, they're always there, even when the person who cast them is gone.